I stand drenched in rain and dread, trapped between my father's threat and the only man who ever made me feel alive. Victor's eyes promise chains if I step back, but Graham's touch promises fire if I dare stay. One kiss burned away my lies, but now Kyle's poison, Hannah's betrayal, my father's rage could tear it all apart. If I run to Graham now, I lose my name, my past, but maybe I find a heartbeat that's finally my own. If I crawl back to Victor's cold shadow, I kill every secret spark I ever felt. So here I stand, shaking, my heart screaming to break every rule my father carved into my bones. But what if one reckless move destroys Graham too? What if loving him means watching him suffer for me? One choice, one step, one stolen breath between ruin and freedom. Will I kneel at my father's feet again, or kiss Graham in front of the man who swore I'd never be enough? Would you risk it all for a love you're not supposed to want? I was 20, a college dropout with a backpack slung over one shoulder, standing at the edge of a gravel road in rural Maine. My sneakers crunched against the stones, each step heavier than the last. I'd run from my father's house, his voice still ringing in my ears. "You'll never be enough," he said. Not for me. For anyone. Those words had carved themselves into me, a constant ache I couldn't shake. I'd always been the charming one, the blonde kid with ocean blue eyes who could make anyone laugh. But inside, I was drowning in doubt. Was I broken? Was I wrong for wanting things I couldn't name? The lakeside cabin came into view, half renovated, its wooden frame jagged against the misty air. I'd come here for quick cash, answering a vague ad about helping with repairs. It was a chance to breathe, to escape the small-town cage where everyone knew my failures. My father, Victor, had made sure of that, parading my dropped classes like a badge of shame. "Real men don't quit," he'd spat. I wondered if real men felt like this. Lost, untethered, afraid of their own heart. The cabin door creaked open, and there he was, Graham, the guy who'd hired me. He was 42, broad-shouldered, with peppered hair and hazel eyes that looked like they'd seen too much. This flannel shirt stretched across his chest, calloused hands gripping a hammer like it was an extension of him. He wasn't what I expected, rugged, sure, but there was a quiet weight to him, like he carried ghosts he didn't talk about. "Ethan, right?" His voice was low, gravelly, with a warmth that caught me off guard. He extended a hand, and I shook it, his grip firm but not crushing. My pulse jumped, and I laughed too loud to cover it. "Yeah, that's me, ready to swing a hammer or whatever you need." My words stumbled, and I cursed myself for sounding like an idiot. Graham's lips twitched, a half-smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Long drive from town. You eat yet?" He turned, heading inside, and I followed, my sneakers squeaking on the unfinished floor. The cabin smelled of sawdust and pine, the kind of place that felt like it could swallow secrets whole. We sat by a makeshift fire pit outside, the flames crackling as he handed me a beer. I wasn't much of a drinker, but I took it, my fingers brushing his. My chest tightened, and I looked away, pretending to study the label. What the hell was that? I saw it, my heart thudding too fast. I'd never let myself think about guys like that. Not out loud. Not where my father could hear. "You don't talk much, do you?" Graham said, leaning back in his chair, his eyes fixed on me. There was no judgment, just curiosity, like he was trying to figure out what I was hiding. I shrugged, forcing a grin. "Not much to say. Just here to work, you know?" But my voice cracked, betraying me. I took a swig of beer, the bitterness sharp on my tongue. Graham nodded, but his gaze lingered, heavy and unreadable. "Fair enough, but you look like you're running from something, or someone." I froze, my grip tightening on the bottle. How did he see that? I laughed it off, but it sounded hollow. Just needed a change. College wasn't my thing. He didn't push, but his silence felt like a question I didn't want to answer. We worked the rest of the day, hauling lumber and nailing boards. My muscles burned, but it was the good kind of pain, the kind that drowned out my father's voice. Graham moved with a steady rhythm, his hands sure and strong. I caught myself watching him too long, the way his shoulders flexed under his shirt, the way sweat glistened on his neck. I turned away, my face hot, telling myself it was just the summer heat. That night, I lay on a cot in the spare room, staring at the ceiling. The cabin was quiet, but I heard Graham's boots pacing outside my door, slow and restless. My stomach twisted, a mix of fear and something I couldn't name. I got up, opened the door, and found him there, leaning against the wall, his eyes catching mine in the dim light. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked, his voice softer now, almost intimate. "Nah," I said, my throat tight. "Too much quiet, I guess." He chuckled, low and rough. "City kid? Huh? Takes time to get used to it." We stood there too close, the air thick between us. I don't know why I did it, but I reached out, brushing sawdust from his cheek. My fingers grazed his stubble, and we both froze. His breath hitched, and for a second, I thought he'd pull away. But he didn't. His eyes locked on mine, and I felt it, a ping, like gravity, tugging me towards something dangerous. "Sorry," I muttered, stepping back, my heart slamming against my ribs. Don't be, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. He turned and walked away, leaving me standing there, my hand still tingling where it had touched him. I went back to my room, my mind racing. What was I doing? I wasn't supposed to feel this. Not for him, not for anyone. But as I lay down, the memory of his warmth under my fingers burned brighter than the fire we'd sat by. I didn't sleep that night, and I knew, deep down, I just stepped into something I couldn't outrun. The next morning, I woke with a headache, the kind that felt like guilt pressed into my skull. Graham was already up, hammering nails into the cabin's porch like nothing had happened. I avoided his eyes, grabbing a screwdriver and joining him, my hands shaky. The air was thick with summer heat, and I told myself that's why my skin felt too tight. Not because of last night, not because of his stubble under my fingers. Sleep okay? Graham asked, not looking up. His tone was casual, but there was an edge, like he was testing the water. Yeah, fine, I lied, driving a screw too hard and stripping it. I cursed under my breath, and he chuckled, the sound low and warm. Easy, kid, don't break my tools. He stepped closer, his arm brushing mine as he took the screwdriver. His touch lingered a second too long, and my stomach flipped. I stepped back, pretending to check the woodpile. We worked all morning, side by side, the rhythm of our hammers filling the silence. But every glance he threw my way felt like a spark. I caught him watching me when he thought I wasn't looking, his hazel eyes tracing the line of my jaw, my arms, my hands. I told myself I was imagining it, but my pulse didn't listen. At noon, we sat on the porch steps, sharing a thermos of coffee. The lake shimmered in the distance, but I barely noticed. Graham's knee bumped mine as he passed the thermos, and I froze, my breath catching. He didn't move away. You're good at this, he said, nodding at the repaired railing. You sure you're just a drop, huh? I forced a laugh, my voice too loud. Yeah, well, I'm not completely useless. Just not what my dad wanted. Graham's eyes softened, and he leaned closer, his shoulder brushing mine. Your dad sounds like a piece of work. I snorted, but my chest ached. You don't know the half of it. He thinks I'm a failure because I didn't become some corporate drone, or because I stopped, my throat tight, because I'm not the son he wanted, because I feel things I shouldn't. Graham didn't push, but his silence was loud, like he knew what I wasn't saying. He handed me a sandwich from his cooler, his fingers grazing mine. My skin burned where he touched, and I pulled back too fast, nearly dropping the bread. Careful, he said, his lips twitching. You're jumpy today. I'm fine. I snapped, harsher than I meant. I took a bite, chewing to avoid his gaze, but I felt it, his eyes on me, steady, like he could see through every lie I told myself. That afternoon, we painted the cabin's siding, the sun beating down. Sweat soaked my shirt, and I peeled it off, tossing it aside. Graham paused, mid-brush, his eyes flicking over my chest, my arms. I froze, my heart pounding. He looked away, but not before I saw the flush on his neck. Hot out, he muttered, dipping his brush in the paint can. His voice was rough, and I wondered if he felt it too. This pull, this thing we weren't naming. I laughed, trying to break the tension. Yeah, means trying to kill me. I flicked paint at him, a playful jab to shift the mood. It splattered his cheek, and he raised an eyebrow, a slow grin spreading. Oh, you're gonna regret that. He dipped his brush and swiped it across my arm, leaving a streak of white. I laughed, real this time, and lunged, smearing paint on his neck. We wrestled for the brush, our hands slippery, our breaths close. His grip was strong, pinning me for a second, and I felt his heartbeat through his shirt, fast like mine. We pulled apart, both breathing hard. His eyes locked on mine, and for a moment, the world was just us, paint-smeared, too close, too real. I wanted to lean in, to close the gap, but fear clawed at me. What was I doing? This wasn't me. Or was it? Sorry, I mumbled, stepping back, my face hot. I grabbed my shirt, pulling it on like armor. Graham wiped paint from his cheek, his voice low. Don't be. That night, we ate dinner in silence, the air heavy. I couldn't stop replaying the paint fight, the feel of his hands, the way his eyes burned into mine. After, we sat by the fire pit, the flames casting shadows on his face. He leaned back, his arm brushing mine again, and this time, he didn't move away. Neither did I. You ever feel like you're fighting something you can't win? He asked, staring into the fire. His voice was raw, like he'd ripped it from somewhere deep. I swallowed, my mouth dry. All the time. I wanted to say more, to ask what he was fighting, but the words stuck. Instead, I looked at him, and he looked back, his eyes searching mine. The space between us felt alive, electric, like one wrong move could set it ablaze. He reached out, his hand hovering near mine, and my breath stopped, but then he pulled back, standing abruptly. Get some sleep, Ethan. Long day tomorrow. I nodded, my chest tight, and watched him walk inside. Alone, I stared at the fire, my mind a mess. I wanted him, God. I wanted him, but every fiber of me screamed to run. This wasn't just forbidden, it was dangerous. It could ruin me. But as I lay in bed later, hearing his boots pace outside my door again, I knew I was already too far gone to turn back. The next day, a summer storm rolled in, dark clouds choking the sky. Rain battered the cabin, and a leak sprang in the living room window. Graham cursed, grabbing a tarp, and I followed him. My heart still raw from last night's firelit tension. We worked fast, taping the tarp over the frame, our hands brushing in the chaos. His touch sent a jolt through me, and I pulled back, my face hot despite the chill. "Hold it steady," Graham said, his voice tight as he pressed against me to secure the tarp. Our shoulders bumped, and I felt his breath on my neck, warm and quick. My hand shook, not from the cold, but from the weight of his closeness. The storm roared outside, trapping us in this moment, the cabin creaking like it knew our secrets. We finished, soaked and shivering, and collapsed onto the couch, the tarp flapping softly. The room was dim, lit only by a flickering lamp. Graham's wet shirt clung to his chest, outlining every muscle, and I caught myself staring. I looked away, my pulse racing, but he noticed. "You okay?" he asked, his voice low, like he was afraid to break something fragile. "Yeah," I lied, my throat tight. "Just wet." I forced a laugh, but it died fast. The air between us was thick, charged, like the storm had followed us inside. He stood, grabbing a towel from a chair and tossing it to me. I caught it, my fingers brushing his again, and this time, neither of us pulled away. His eyes locked on mine, and I saw it, the same hunger I felt, mirrored back. My breath hitched, and I stood, the towel forgotten on the floor. "Ethan," he said, his voice rough, almost a warning. He stepped closer, and I didn't move. I couldn't. My body screamed to run, but my heart was louder, pounding with a need I'd buried for years. I don't know who moved first. Maybe it was me, desperate to stop the ache. Maybe it was him, tired of holding back. Our lips met, hesitant at first, then hungry, like we'd both been starving. His stubble scraped my skin, his hands gripping my waist, pulling me closer. I kissed him back, hard, my fingers digging into his shoulders. It was fire. It was freedom. It was everything I'd been too scared to want. But then I froze, my father's voice crashing through my head. "You're nothing. You'll ruin everything you touch." I pulled back, gasping, my chest tight with panic. Graham's eyes searched mine, confused. "Heart. Ethan, what's wrong?" His hands were still on me, steady but gentle, like he was afraid I'd bolt. "I can't," I choked out, stepping back. My legs hit the couch, and I sank onto it, my hands shaking. "This is wrong. I'm not supposed to feel this." Graham knelt in front of me, his eyes level with mine. "Hey, look at me." His voice was soft but firm, cutting through the storm in my head. "You're not broken. You're not wrong. This," he gestured between us, his hand trembling slightly. "This is real." I shook my head, tears burning my eyes. "You don't get it. My dad, he'd kill me. He'd see this and say I'm disgusting, that I'm me." "Fuck your dad," Graham snapped, his voice sharp for the first time. He softened immediately, his hand reaching for mine but stopping short. "Ethan, you're not him. You don't have to carry his hate." I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to. But the fear was a vice, squeezing my chest. I looked at him, his face inches from mine, and the pull was still there, stronger than ever. I leaned forward, my forehead resting against his, my breath shaky. "What are we doing, Graham?" "I don't know," he admitted, his voice raw. "But I know I don't want to stop." His hand found mine, his calloused fingers threading through my own. The touch was electric, grounding, terrifying. I squeezed his hand, hard, like it could anchor me against the chaos in my head. We stayed like that, silent, the storm raging outside, our breaths mingling in the dim light. "I'm scared," I whispered, the words spilling out before I could stop them. I don't know how to do this." Graham's thumb brushed over my knuckles, slow and deliberate. "Me neither," he said, his voice barely audible. "Not like this. Not with someone who—" He stopped, his jaw tightening, like the words were too heavy to say. "Someone who what?" I pressed, my heart pounding. He looked at me, his eyes raw, unguarded. "Someone who makes me feel like I'm not just existing." My breath caught, and for a moment, I forgot the fear, the guilt, my father's voice. There was just Graham, his hand in mine, his warmth pulling me under. I leaned in again, slower this time, and kissed him. It was softer, deeper, a confession we couldn't speak. His hands cupped my face, and I let myself fall into it, just for a moment, before the doubt crept back. We pulled apart, both breathing hard. I stood, pacing, my hands in my hair. "What if this ruins everything? What if I ruin you?" "You won't," he said, standing too, his voice steady despite the storm in his eyes. "But if you're not ready, I'll wait. I'm not going anywhere." I wanted to scream, to cry, to kiss him again. Instead, I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. We cleaned up in silence, the tarp still flapping, the rain still falling. But something had shifted, a line crossed we couldn't uncross. I lay awake that night, his taste still on my lips, my heart torn between desire and dread. I'd never felt so alive or so terrified. The morning after the storm, the cabin felt smaller, like the walls were closing in. Graham and I barely spoke, our eyes avoiding each other as we sanded boards for the porch. His kiss still burned on my lips, a secret I couldn't shake. Every time his arm brushed mine, my heart jumped, but fear kept me quiet. What we'd done last night wasn't just a line crossed. It was a cliff we jumped off, and I didn't know if we'd crash. By noon, the air was humid, the lake still as glass. I was wiping sweat from my brow when I heard tires crunching on gravel. My stomach dropped. A beat-up blue sedan pulled up, and Hannah stepped out, her dark ponytail swinging, her eyes narrowing as she spotted me. My childhood friend, the one who'd always been there, who loved me in a way I could never return. "Ethan," she called, her voice sharp but warm. She jogged over, pulling me into a hug. I stiffened, glancing at Graham, who was watching us, his face unreadable. "What the hell are you doing out here? You just vanished." I forced a grin, my chest tight. "Needed a break. You know how it is." Her eyes flicked to Graham, then back to me, suspicious. "Yeah, well, your dad's losing it. He thinks you're throwing your life away." She paused, her gaze lingering on my flushed face. "You okay? You look weird." "I'm fine," I said too quickly, stepping back. Graham set down his hammer, wiping his hands on his jeans, and walked over. "Graham," he said, offering a hand. His voice was steady, but I caught the tension in his jaw. Anna shook his hand, her smile tight. "Hannah, Ethan's friend." Her tone was polite, but her eyes were knives cutting between us. "You're the guy he's working for?" "Something like that," Graham said, his lips twitching. I wanted to disappear. We invited her inside, the cabin's half-finished walls feeling like a trap. She sat on the couch, her questions relentless. "So, Ethan, you're just, what, playing handyman? What about school?" "Your dad said it." "Screw my dad," I snapped, my voice sharper than I meant. Her eyes widened, and I softened. "I just needed space, Hannah." "Okay." She frowned, unconvinced, and glanced at Graham, who was leaning against the counter, arms crossed. "And you're cool with this? Some kid crashing at your place?" Graham's eyes met mine for a split second, and my heart stopped. "He's not crashing. He's helping. Good worker. Teal." Hannah's lips pressed into a line. She wasn't buying it. We ate lunch, the silence heavy, her eyes darting between us like she was solving a puzzle. After, she pulled me outside to the old boathouse by the lake, her voice low and urgent. "Ethan, what's going on?" she hissed, grabbing my arm. "You're different. You're not telling me something." I yanked my arm free, my pulse racing. "Nothing's going on. I'm just working." "Bullshit." Her eyes burned into mine. "I know you, Ethan. You're hiding something." "Is it him? That guy? Are you?" She stopped, her face twisting with realization. "Oh my God, you're sleeping with him, aren't you?" My blood ran cold. "Hannah, stop. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me." Her voice rose, sharp enough to cut. "I saw how he looks at you, like you're his. Ethan, he's twice your age. He's using you to fill some void. You're better than this." I stepped back, my hands shaking. "You don't get to decide what I'm better than." Her eyes filled with tears, but her voice was steel. "If you don't come home, I'm telling your dad. He deserves to know what his son's doing out here." My heart stopped. "You wouldn't. Try me." She turned and stormed back to her car, leaving me frozen by the boathouse. I wanted to scream, to chase her, to beg her not to say anything, but my legs wouldn't move. The secret was out, or close to it, and the weight of it crushed me. Back inside, Graham was waiting, his eyes searching mine. What did she say? I couldn't look at him. "She knows, or she thinks she does. She's gonna tell my dad." His face hardened, but his voice was soft. "What do you want to do?" "I don't know," I snapped, pacing. This was a mistake, all of it. I should have stayed in town, kept my head down out. "Ethan," he grabbed my shoulders, stopping me. His touch was firm, grounding, but it only made the panic worse. "This isn't a mistake, not to me." I shoved him away, my chest heaving. "You don't get it. If my dad finds out, I'm done." "Dale." I stopped, my voice breaking. "He'll hate me. He'll call me every name I spent my life running from." Graham's hands dropped, his eyes dark with something like pain. "I'm not gonna push you, but I'm not sorry for what we did." I wanted to hate him for that, for making this harder, but I couldn't. I turned away, my hands in my hair, trying to breathe. The cabin felt like a cage now, Hannah's threat hanging over me like a blade. I didn't know how to hide this anymore, how to pretend I didn't want him. But if I didn't, everything would burn. My family, my future, me. That night, I lay awake, the memory of Hannah's words mixing with Graham's kiss. I was trapped, caught between what I wanted and what I was supposed to be. And somewhere, out there, Hannah was driving back to town, carrying a secret that could destroy us both. Hannah's threat hung like smoke, choking me. I barely slept, my mind replaying her words. "I'm telling your dad." By morning, the cabin felt like a trap. Graham sensed it, his eyes tracking me as we worked on the roof, hammering shingles in silence. His presence burned, but so did my fear. If Hannah talked, my father would come for me, and everything Graham, this fragile thing we'd built, would shatter. Midday, a truck roared up the drive. My heart stopped. Not Victor. Kyle, Graham's estranged son, stepped out, all sharp edges and bitter eyes. He was 17, lean, with a cigarette dangling from his lips. He flicked it away, glaring at us. Nice setup, Dad, Kyle spat, his voice dripping venom. New kid to replace me? Graham stiffened, setting down his hammer. Kyle, what are you doing here? Thought I'd see what you're wasting your life on now. His eyes slid to me, cold and knowing. He's young, really young. My face burned, but I stayed quiet, gripping my hammer. Graham stepped forward, voice low. What's your mouse? Kyle laughed, sharp and cruel. Or what? You'll ditch me again? Fine. Wait, you already did. He turned to me. You know he's just using you, right? To feel less like a failure. Kyle, enough. Graham snapped, but Kyle kept going, his voice louder, slicing through the air. Bet the whole town loved hearing about this. You and your new boy toy. My stomach dropped. He knew, or he guessed, and that was enough. I stepped back, my breath shallow. You don't know shit, I said, but my voice shook. Don't I? Kyle smirked, pulling out his phone. One call to your dad, and you're done. Graham grabbed Kyle's arm, yanking him close. You're not dragging him into this. Kyle shoved him off, eyes blazing. Why not? You dragged me into your mess when you left. Now it's his turn. I couldn't breathe. The world was closing in on Hannah. Kyle, my father's shadow. I turned to Graham, my voice breaking. Is he right? Am I just some fix for you? Graham's face crumpled, but he didn't answer fast enough. The silence cut deeper than any words. Ethan, now, don't. I snapped, my chest heaving. You let him say it. You didn't stop him. I'm trying, Graham shouted, his voice raw. I'm trying to protect you, but you're shutting me out. Protect me? I laughed, bitter. You pulled me into this. I was fine before you. Before I let myself. I stopped, tears burning my eyes. I wanted to hate him, but I couldn't. I loved him, and that was worse. Kyle watched, smirking, as I stormed toward the lake, my boots slamming the dirt. Graham followed, grabbing my arm. Ethan, don't do this. Talk to me. I yanked free, my voice a snarl. I can't. You don't get it. My dad will destroy me. And you're just gonna leave, like he did to him. I jerked my head toward Kyle. Graham flinched, his eyes dark with pain. I'm not leaving you. You already are, I whispered, turning away. I walked to the dock, my hands shaking, Kyle's threat echoing. I wanted to run, to disappear, to forget Graham's touch. But his voice followed me, low and broken. Ethan, please. I didn't turn back. The lake stretched before me, cold and endless, like the choice I couldn't make. Rain pelted the boathouse where I hid, my clothes soaked, my heart a mess. Kyle's words burned. He's using you, mixing with Hannah's threat, and my father's voice in my head. You're nothing. I'd run from Graham, from the fight, but his face haunted me. I wanted to hate him, to blame him for this chaos, but my chest ached with the truth. I needed him. The door creaked. Graham stood there, drenched, his hazel eyes raw. Ethan, you can't keep running. I turned away, my voice shaking. Why not? Everyone's gonna know. Kyle, Hannah, they'll ruin us. He stepped closer, boots squelching. Let them. I don't care anymore. I spun, anger flaring. You don't care? My dad'll kill me. Graham, you don't know what he's like. His jaw tightened, but his voice was soft. I know what it's like to lose everything. I left my son, Ethan. I walked away because I was a coward, too scared to face my own mess. I won't do that to you. My throat burned. You already did. You let Kyle say I'm just some replacement. You're not. He grabbed my shoulders, his grip firm, desperate. You're everything I didn't know I could want. I'm done hiding. I shoved him, but he didn't budge. You don't get it. I'm terrified. I spent my life pretending, burying me. And now you're here, and I can't stop feeling. I choked, tears mixing with rain. Graham's hands slid to my face, his thumbs brushing my cheeks. What do you feel? Say it. I trembled, the words clawing out. I love you, and it's killing me. His breath hitched, and before I could pull away, he kissed me. It wasn't like before, soft or hesitant. This was raw, desperate, his lips fierce against mine, his hands pulling me close. I kissed him back, my fingers in his wet hair, my body pressed to his. The world dissolved. Kyle, Hannah, my father gone. There was only him, his warmth, his heartbeat against mine. We broke apart, gasping for heads touching. I love you too, he whispered, his voice breaking. I don't deserve you, but I love you. I clutched his shirt, my voice rasped. Then why does this feel like a mistake? Because we're both broken, he said, his eyes searching mine. I abandoned Kyle. You're running from your dad. But this, he pressed his hand to my chest, over my heart. This is the only thing that feels right. I wanted to believe him, but fear lingered. What if they take this away? Then we fight, he said, fierce. I'm not losing you. His words cracked something open in me. I pulled him close, our lips meeting again, slower, deeper, a promise we couldn't speak. His hand slid under my shirt, warm against my cold skin, and I let myself feel it, all of it. No guilt, no shame, just us. But then headlights flashed through the rain. A truck. My heart stopped. Victor's voice echoed in my mind, and I knew, whatever came next, we were out of time. Rain hammered the boathouse, my heart pounding as Victor's truck headlights cut through the storm. Graham's hand was still on my chest, his breath warm against my face, but the world was crashing in. I pulled away, my eyes locked on the truck. Victor stepped out, his silhouette tall and menacing, Kyle beside him, smirking, a lit cigarette glowing in the dark. My stomach twisted. They knew. Ethan, Victor's voice boomed, sharp as a blade. Get out here. Now. Graham grabbed my arm, his voice low. Stay with me. We'll face this together. I shook him off, my chest tight. You don't know him. He'll destroy everything. My father's eyes burned through the rain, promising punishment. I'd heard his rants before, his hate for anything that didn't fit his mold of a real man. I was his failure, and this would be the final proof. Kyle stepped forward, tossing his cigarette into the mud. Told you, Dad, he's got a new favorite. His voice was venom, aimed at Graham but cutting me. Shut up, Kyle, Graham snapped, stepping in front of me. This isn't about you. Victor stormed closer, his face twisted with rage. You did this to my son. He jabbed a finger at Graham, then turned to me. You're coming home. Now, or you're no son of mine. The words hit like a punch. I froze, rain soaking my skin, my heart torn between the man I loved and the father I'd never pleased. Graham's eyes pleaded with me, but Victor's glare was a cage, pulling me back to a life I'd fled. Ethan, don't, Graham said, his voice breaking. You don't have to go back to that. I wanted to grab his hand, to run, to choose him, but Victor's shadow loomed, and Kyle's smirk promised more pain. Hannah's threat echoed too, she told them, or enough to bring them here. I was trapped, my secret exposed, my world unraveling. Choose, Victor barked. Your family, or this, filth. Graham flinched but didn't back down. He's not filth, and you don't own him. I looked at Graham, his face steady despite the storm, and felt it. The love we'd confessed, the life we could have. But then I saw Kyle, his pain a mirror of my own, and Victor, his hate a weight I'd carried forever. If I stayed, I'd lose my family, my past, maybe myself. If I left, I'd lose Graham, the only thing that felt real. I can't, I whispered, my voice lost in the rain. I stepped toward Victor, my legs heavy, but stopped, turning back to Graham. His eyes were wet, not from rain, but he didn't reach for me. Ethan, he said, soft, final. Whatever you choose, I'll still be here. I stood between them, rain blurring my tears, my heart screaming. Run to Graham? Or go with Victor? Freedom? Or the cage I knew? I looked over my shoulder, the cabin a shadow in the storm, and took a step. My choice unclear, my future hanging in the balance.